Last episode in Architect's Exodus, I managed to take on a ton of dragons and managed to gain access to a dragon of my own. And with all of these conquered dragons, I managed to get my hands on a draconic Ember, a spark from a herald of Nihagr, the first seed of Asgard's forge, which will be used to help us restore Asgard. After completing that though, we are now tasked with the Reconsecrated Azure stone, where this stone was once an emblem of the Azure superiority, which now serves only as a reminder of a sin I have committed. Infusing the Azure crystals into this stone will restore its former power and serve as the first step to restoring Asgard. But making this is going to be no easy task, as we have to combine a ton of fluids to get to this point. So what exactly is this task going to require of us? So first we need to get our hands on null crystals, which thankfully we already have them, as you do get these from fighting a specific boss. And I believe we got between 6 to 18 of them from Surtr. And I somehow have 19 of them, as we may have also gotten some from a quest potentially. But then we need to dip some of these into some very specific fluids, which I think is a really cool mechanic. What's even cooler though is the ability for us to make even more of these fluids and all of the tasks that are going to be required in order to do so. So I hope you're ready for a journey, because we are about to dive into the process of making all of these individual fluids. And first on the list is going to be cryotheum. The first step in getting the cryotheum is going to be having a bucket of mineral resin and being able to place this down. So the squeezer and then drying basin, and then we just need to step on this until we get some mineral fluid in here. And then I just want to pick it up in a bucket. Now we have ourselves some mineral. After getting this, we're going to need some blue ice, some glow lichen, and also a frost lily. To get the frost lily, we need to find some powdered snow and drop a regular flower into powdered snow, which is a really cool mechanic too. So I'm off to find myself a cold biome, which I do believe there is one on the map off this direction. Oh, and look at that. While I'm at it, there's an ice and fire structure right here with an ice and fire boss. I mean, what if we maybe blood step right to him and take him out and backstab him? He had no chance. No chance with that. Also, by the way, you can't forget underneath this building, there is something very special back here. And yes, I've already looted all of these chests, and there's a Vex spawner. Oh, and also another thing we're going to need a little bit later on is technically this sky slime that is right here. So I will grab some of this too, because we're going to need it. Now, I guess if I'm not having any luck finding any powdered snow here in the wild, in the overworld sort of setting in Midgard, we could travel to any of the other realms that we've been to, and those definitely had tons of powdered snow in them. I mean, in Jotunheim, I was pretty hard pressed to not step in something that wasn't powdered snow, so I can just pick it up in a bucket. So apparently we can just toss a flower into it. Oh, and it consumes it. Interesting. Another component that's going to be needed is glow lichen, so we can just use some shears to be able to grab some of this. With all three of these things, we should be able to toss them now inside, and that should convert this into cryotheum. And these are all like regular fluids. We can definitely pick them up and place them back down. And I was looking at the recipes that you can use, for example, with cryotheum, and a null gem is also another thing, which gives us an ice gem. And I followed this trail, and it looks like it takes us a little bit further down the line, and an ice cluster is ultimately going to be something we need. So I might as well utilize this while I can. And it does look like I am going to need at least 2 ice gems in order to make an ice cluster. And we've actually gotten gems also, I believe, from taking on bosses. So I'll toss 2 of these in here, and they just get spit out as ice gems. Very nice. Now, ultimately, I need to convert this into warped cryotheum, which is going to require warped fungus, a sky slime, and a mechanical heart, which is kind of cool. We take an ancient motive core, which we get from taking on the Embers golems, which you can find, I believe, in Muspelheim, and drop this with a steel block underneath. So I'll place down the steel block. We have an anvil, and I also have a core. So drop it down, drop the anvil on it. Aha. And there's the mechanical heart. Now, to get the ground warp fungus, I believe this is a regular cutting board recipe. So we place the cutting board down and hit it with a hammer, and we get ourselves ground warp fungus. With this, we toss 4 of those in with the heart and the slime balls, and that converts into the warp cryotheum. With this, we can make our first crystal, which is going to be the ice crystal. So I'll drop this in and back we receive our first section in making the reconcentrated Azure stone. Next, we're going to need pyrotheum, but pyrotheum we technically already have. However, I do want to keep this here as this is how we're getting glowstone for some recipes. So I'm just going to make another set, and this requires lava. And then we toss in blackstone dust, deep slate, and a magma cube, and we get pyrotheum. The next one's going to require crimson pyrotheum. So we are going to need ground crimson fungus, an ichor ball, and hellish flesh. Hellish flesh we get from within Muspelheim by killing the piglins, and then ichor balls we also find in there because that's where the islands are for Tinker's Construct. So back to Muspelheim I go, and here's another sky island, and this is where that ichor exists. This is also where we can get some hellish flesh. I believe it's from the regular piglins. Also, while I'm here, I'm going to take advantage of the Crimson Forest because we need Crimson Fungus. Some other things I'm also going to need is Shroom Lights down the line, and I really wish Shroom Lights actually had EMC here. These are really nice. Back to Midgard, we place this on here, and that will get us the ground Crimson Fungus and a little bit of Hellish Flesh. All of these things will combine together, and that gives us crimson pyrotheum. By tossing a null crystal into here, we get back our fire crystal. Now our next step is going to require a bit more. We have to get a nature's crystal, which requires nether sap. To be able to get this, we need to grow ourselves a tree, specifically a crimson or a warped tree. This is going to require an arboreal extractor, yes, from the thermal series, which we need to place next to a tree that we have grown. So back in Muspelheim, if I grab some of the crimson nyelium here, we can now grow these trees. Now after placing some of the nyelium, I should be able to grow this tree, yes, with just a little bit of bone meal, which is perfect. And so I'll be able to place the arboreal extractor on here, and it's going to already start working. But it will go a little bit faster if we put some augments in here. For example, I can place in a reinforced integral component. That'll make it go a little bit faster, but a watch of flowing time will make this go incredibly quick. So let's activate one. Yes, that is going to start working much, much faster. And I don't want to leave that running forever. I just want to be able to pull my bucket out and turn this off. So now we have the nether sap, but we need to combine this with a block of sunny quartz, a shroom light, and also some nether fungal salts. Now, sunny quartz, normally you would basically combine your quartz, I believe, with like a flower, but in this case, the recipe has been changed, so we can't actually get sunny quartz the normal Britannia way. Instead, we actually will need the alloy smelter, in which I haven't actually done any of the operations for getting into Ender.io. So this will be kind of our first little step. I mean, we already have dark steel, so that's pretty straightforward. The main thing we need to get is going to be grains of infinity. And to be able to get this, well, we just need bedrock. Down in an open area underground, I just want to light any of the bedrock surfaces here with fire, and then have a magnet turned on. And once the fires go out, we should get ourselves grains of infinity that pop into existence. Yes, which is going to be very nice, and we can collect quite a bit of it from doing this operation here. Thankfully, though, I don't think we need a whole lot. Perfect, we've already got our first grains of infinity. Another way you can get some is by having flint in your offhand, cobble deep slate or deep slate in your main hand, and then a grindstone or obsidian, and shift right click. And in doing this, you'll also produce grains of infinity. Now I have myself an alloy smelter, but to be able to use stuff from Ender.io, you do need capacitors. So we can either make a capacitor or we can use, for example, a loot capacitor. So this, for example, is a loot capacitor that I ended up finding in a loot chest. And so we could just use this one. Just give the machine some power, give it the capacitor, and it's ready to go. Now to get the special leaf block we need, I believe, yes, we can buy a sunny trumpet sapling. Is that correct? Yes, we can buy one of these. And once we have one, we have as many as we need. Head back home and we can grow this beautiful sapling, by the way. This is a really pretty tree from cork. Ah, yes, I do love this thing. Okay, so shears. And we'll just shear some leaves off of it. Also going to need the logs from it, and we're going to need some stripped versions of these logs. So I'm going to grab all of the logs from it, and specifically those stripped versions, because we have to use that to make the hedge. But then we combine this with quartz, and we'll get ourselves the sunny quartz we need. Now we are going to need a cooking pot, so we can place our cooking pot directly on here. And this is where we need some very interesting things to be able to make the nether fungal salts. We're going to need moth dust, which is interesting. Some of those funguses that we found, and also nether salts. And I'm assuming that we get these somewhere in Muspelheim potentially because, yes, you get them from these ores because I do have some on me. So we just need to take the ingredients, place them all in. That is going to start producing, but we also need the bowl, which I believe is deep slate? Oh, basalt. Yes, specifically the smooth basalt. So we're able to make a few of these and then place them in the bowl slot, and now we get the salts. And also with the shroom light from earlier, that's everything needed to convert our fluid into underworld solution. And I'm now able to take my null crystal and get myself a nature crystal. Next on our to-do list is the unstable solution, which the prerequisite to this is the ghastly glycerin, which I think is a really cool name for a fluid. Specifically one that requires a gassed bladder in order to get. Now, there's a couple of ways we can get this. The multi-servo press, which we get a little gunpowder from, or we can use the mechanical squeezer. Both we do have. So I think I'm going to go with the mechanical or the multi-servo press here. And I do have a few of these bladders because I have killed several gas. So into the multi-servo press it goes, and this is going to automatically send the gunpowder out and the fluid, but where did it send the fluid to? Okay, so maybe I'm not going to go that route. I'm actually going to do it this way. So we will have it not auto push. So I'm going to use the mechanical squeezer instead. That will squeeze things out and it should end up in its buffer. Should 500. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if my AE system was consuming it in some way or what. But now we have it. And voila, our ghastly glycerin. So this needs purple chalk, all right, which I think we should be able to make from occultism. More of the salts and also a dragon bone, which we got this dragon bone from taking on one of the dragon bosses? Ashlord. Ah, yes, I remember the two-phase dragon boss. I've got a couple of their bones. So yes, we just need to make some impure chalk. So now we have a ton of this. And this uses regular pure chalk. If I travel back to Helheim, I do have some spirit fire in here I can just toss it into. These 3 items dropped inside of the gas glycerin should, if we place them in fast enough, and we don't have our magnet on. There we go. That should convert. Oh, interesting. And it even gives us the bowl back. It gives us the unstable solution. And when we toss a null crystal into this, we get back an arcane crystal. Now to get ourselves abyssal dew, we also need more gas glycerin, which means I am going to have to take on a few more gas, it looks like, because I did unfortunately run out. And as far as getting more gas goes, I mean, this is also an option. Back in Helheim, being able to rotate through here until you get a ghast is definitely an option. Yeah, I almost forgot about this. And there we go. So, yep, that is a good way of getting them. And I already got 2. But there we go. There's another bucket. Look, I got to come back here anyways. Rest of this, we need another mechanical heart and abyssal pearl, which then uses void reagent, which is going to require a little bit higher level, at least a tier 2, which I think we should be able to make. Skystone dust and also an empowered void crystal. The null state, though, is kind of cool. We throw in the processed soulstone to get this. For this, I need to travel back to the well. And inside of the well, we will drop in the soulstone. I'm going to throw 32 in for right now. But we should get back, yes, the null states. Then we also need the void reagent, which this is going to require a particular level here. I'm going to need 2 string and gunpowder. Is this the right orb for this? I may have to use, I mean, I believe this is our tier 2. I mean, maybe I have to give it more life essence. Maybe I have to separate the ingredients. Yes, you have to separate the string. You can't place them all in one go. Aha. I'm learning. I'm figuring this out. It's been a long time since I've really dove real deep into blood magic. So yeah, this is all kind of new. Never really used the table that much. Get the empowered void. Well, we're going to need some coal, black dye, some sort of stone, and place all of that in. And that should charge up and empower this. And I'm going to do it via block because it is a little bit more efficient this way. And there we go. We now have all of it we need. Now to make the abyssal pearl, we'll drop these 3 ingredients down, drop an anvil on it, and that will give us the abyssal pearl. And then we must do another mechanical core. So this will get an anvil dropped on it. Perfect. Now with these 3 ingredients, we should be able to take the gaslycerin, I believe, assuming we can do this fast enough, and turn it into abyssal dew. And now with the abyssal dew, we take our crystal, turn it into a celestial crystal. Then finally, we have one more crystal, which is the vampiric crystal. And this is going to require life essence in order to obtain, technically. So first step is, how do we get life essence? Well, for one, we can craft something like a fluid cell. This is from thermal, and then we can travel to where our blood magic altar resides, which for me is back in Helheim. And then we just need to pull some blood out of our altar. To be able to do this, we need to get directly underneath it, place in our fluid cell, and then set this to pull automatically from here. And as you can see, it has pulled what little life essence we had inside. But the more we add, the more it will pull. And so we can then take a bucket directly out of here. And yes, this is a fluid you can actually place in the world. Yes, nothing like taking a bath inside my own life essence. And we're also going to need more hellish flesh, but we're also going to need fiery remains. And this is a summoning ritual. One of the primary components for this is going to be the darkened apple, and getting pure darkness comes from the Forsaken. So we do have plenty of that, as we did take on that mini boss. So, making the apple, quite easy. We've got it done. Oh, we also need a flesh block, and I'm unsure, what is this? Oh, it just comes from rotten flesh. Oh my goodness. So, yes, we do need a rotten flesh block. Then we also need the summoning altar itself, and it also mentions a foxhound, which I believe these do spawn inside of Muspelheim. Now here in Muspelheim, the easiest way to find these is like inside of the map, and it looks like they spawn right here. And normally they'd set you on fire, but I'm immune to fire. So this foxhound has no idea what's happening to it right now. But I should be able to shift right click to put it in my backpack because I do have an advanced mob catcher. And now I have a foxhound. Now back in Muspelheim, I just need the summoning altar, and I need the wolf to be here. So it's next to me. And when we place the apple in, it does not have the correct block below it. That's right, because we do need the rotten flesh block beneath it. So get back in the bag, and then we'll place this rotten flesh block beneath this. Resummon the wolf, place the apple in, it will sacrifice it, and we get ourselves the fiery remains. With the fiery remains, the blood essence, and the hellish flesh, we can toss all of them in, and that should grant us the vampiric crystal, being the only crystal that we had required. And now we have all of them. We now have ourselves the ice crystal, the fire crystal, the nature crystal, arcane crystal, the celestial crystal, and the vampiric crystal. With all these crystals ready to go, we place them all one by one onto the mana infuser. And as soon as all of them exist, it will consume, I believe, 1 mana pool to combine all of these items into the one precious one that we need, which is the Reconsecrated Azure Stone.
I see the shape of the halls and watch you rise. You build with a warrior's purpose. No wasted stone, no hollow flourish. The Azure themselves built with less conviction. Don't tell them I said so.
I can almost hear the hopefulness of the reconstruction happening. So we are now one step closer. The completion of this, we get 8 more Asgard points, and there's so many good things in the Asgard tree that make us incredibly powerful. But remember, that extra reach, is not necessarily something that I really want. However, I do want all of this extra overheal. Back in Asgard, we now need to place in this Azure Stone and make sure it resides on one of the pedestals. And this is merely the beginning, because we now have several more tasks ahead of us. Even though we've completed this one task, Embers is going to be our next challenge. And so I'm back in Muspelheim, back in my Embers center. We need to work our way towards getting the Gate Pearl. The rumblings have begun. The end draws near, and I can feel it. It is time for me to summon the true power of the gods and face them all. Each will grant me a fragment of their domain when defeated, which I need to place into the Bifrost cradles. So our task now is to create said summoning item, the Prelude to Ragnarok, and this is not an easy task. The first thing we need to wrap our head around is how do we actually set up a beam cannon from Embers and use it. First thing we need is some Dawnstone plates, so I'm using a melter real quick to just simply melt some of the Dawnstone that we have, and I do have quite a bit of Dawnstone that I have definitely built up. So we have plenty in here, all of this because I did set up EMC to allow this to constantly keep things going. Also, when I had set that up, I did a little something special, and down here, we should have plenty of embers that have built up over time. But you can also accelerate this with a watch of flowing time to make this incredibly fast. As you can see here, this has produced a ton of embers for us, and we're going to need a lot of these. And all I did was swap out my coal chest for an EMC link to have coal constantly flowing in. For this recipe, we are going to need all of the runes, which is good because I have all of the runes automated, but what we're going to need here is 5 pedestals, so 5 of the alchemy pedestals for this operation, and 1 exchanging tablet, and we're also going to need a singular beam cannon, all of which we should be able to craft up no problem, especially with all the Dawnstone and all of the plates that I just made for each. The way I want to arrange this is by placing down a singular exchanging tablet right here in the middle, and then on the sides what I'll do is I'll place down an alchemy pedestal here, 2 on the sides here, just so long as the things are nearby. And that should be just about everything needed for these recipes. I mean, I could even like place this in different orientations. I don't think it has to be perfect, but if I place them here, for example, that could even work. Now, the real important thing is making sure that we have a beam cannon that is pointed at this. So I have the beam cannon pointed straight down, and then I'm going to need to make sure that we get this beam cannon powered. And then to be able to fire it, we give it a redstone signal. So by default, nothing is going to happen until we start to give it some things. And I'm going to use my Tinker's Hammer to make sure that we can link this to some of our other beams. So for example, this, I will click here and make sure that can send. And same with all of these. I want as many, I think, as possible going into it. And yes, we can have multiple, which is going to be perfect. So let's get this party started. We'll feed all of our embers here, and embers are going to start flying everywhere. Primary setup basically done. We need to actually work now on getting our Gaia Expectus. To make this, we do need molten Gaia Essence, which we can get from just a single Gaia Spirit. So if I take my single ingot and toss it into the melter, we should be able to get this to melt up. And then I can use a tank from thermal to sort of make the transfer of this a little bit easier. I believe I can take a fluid cell, place it underneath, and if I set this to the receive mode up onto the top, I believe that I can cast into this. Yes, which will drain the contents out using a seared faucet. I probably could also just place it next to it and have it auto pull too. So this now leads me over to my stamper, in which I do have a bin underneath, and something you can do with a bin is you can place a hopper underneath, and the hopper will automatically pull out of the bin, allowing this to continue operating, which is quite nice. Up here, inside of this hopper, we have to put ember shards to make sure this keeps it in stock. I don't want to make ingots, but we do need the ingot cast, so the ingot stamp up here. And that, I believe, is just about everything. We just have to fill the fluid into the actual stamp base. So to do this, I'm going to place it like this, and then on the back section, we are going to set this to automatically send. And in doing this, this is now starting to make it's starting to make the Expectus. And we're going to need 5 of them, 1 for each of these pedestals. And yes, I know they're called pedestals, but I just call them pedestals. That's just how I grew up calling them. So beautiful. This is one of many ingredients that we're going to need. Now, what we can do with this is we need to place these on the bottom side of the pedestals. So we're going to need 1 on each of these. With all of the Expectuses on here, now we need to start placing in our individual runes that are going to be required. And these go onto the top. They shouldn't be in any particular order, but I am putting them sort of in the rough order that the recipe shows. And so all of our individual runes leading to all of the different locations, which is quite a nice touch on the recipes here. This right here is going to be the last item, the Gallowhorn, which is going to go directly on the center. Now, we have this completely charged up because it is no longer receiving, and the only thing left to do here is to push the button. In doing this, this should fire a beam that channels everything directly into the center. So if I've done everything correctly, we shall be able to get this to happen. So let's do this. And there it goes. This is incredibly cool. Just all of the effects happening all together. What a cool effect going on. That is so neat. And we just let this happen. And it should, when finished, be inside of the bin, in which our gateway pearl is now ours. And we have now crafted the one item that allows us to summon in all of our prior bosses, but stronger this time. With this, I think we shall also prep ourselves a little bit more, as we are going to need to make sure that we can withstand all of these bosses. Thankfully, however, we do know what all of their weaknesses are, and we do know what all of their strengths are. So we shall be able to balance ourselves significantly better against them. One thing we have against them is our Alf Blade, but I think we can make this even stronger. But that will all have to wait for another episode, because today we're just all out of time. But I hope you have enjoyed this series thus far, and I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, and you're looking forward to new episodes just like this one, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. Now, with our prelude to Ragnarok in our hands, it is now time for me to thank the amazing supporter that made today's episode possible. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Seuss. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting my content in one of the best ways possible. Thank you so much for all of that. And guys, I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. And as always, thanks for watching.